No,
I'm not saying that.
I haven't fallen into the trap of his luscious, beautiful hair and deep eyes, but
I'm guilty.
But lots, you really have, and I want to know. I want to know what's got you excited about him, because the four of us here, I'm assuming, are maybe anti Martin, but in the group chat, you've sort of, you've been sucked into him. So can you tell us why you think he's going to do well?
Well, I agree a lot with the comment here about we ain't a Premier League club, so he should be judged on Championship level. He did a job. Now, some people will see it as a failure because they didn't get automatically promoted. Ipswich were a, once in a decade club that came up and absolutely destroyed the Championship. They were expected to do well, but they did even better than what a lot of people thought. He had a worse squad, in my opinion. I stand by it. He had quite a worse squad than Leicester and Leeds. I know we all lost players in that summer window, Leeds and Leicester, but they lost players late on in the window, which caused a bit of a ruckus, for them early on in the season. They went through a 20-something game unbeaten run, right? Which I know, again, they had some rough periods as well. I think his style of football, whether we like it or enjoy watching it or not, it suits a lot of the players in the squad. These are the players that were twerking for Enzo Maresca, in Copenhagen after he'd already been gone 6 months. I think for me, it makes sense. Now, of course, there are concerns later down the line. As you said, if we were promoted, which I don't think we will be first season because of a points deduction, but if we were promoted, of course, there are concerns there about whether that style of football works in the Premier League. The evidence suggests it doesn't. But I think Russell Martin is a good manager to bring in to try and build something at the football club. And that's why I'm sold on him. I don't want dinosaur football, dinosaur recruitment, nor do I think the dinosaur managerial style would work with half of the players in this squad because they are all a bunch of pussies. That is why I don't think
if you're saying you want him in because he does well in the Championship and he went on a 20-match unbeaten run, etc., 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 you made the point looking further down the line. So basically what you're saying is you want Russell Martin in for one season and then we'll get somebody else in when we get promoted. So we're going to...
Well, I don't think it will be one season.
No, but that's what you're saying.
I don't think it'll be one season because I don't think we'll go up. I don't think we'll go up first year because of points deductions. But I'm saying I think he's...
He's still going to get a 3-season contract, so we're still going to end up paying him off.
But what is the life cycle of a manager these days? It is like 2 years. That's how long managers last. That's how long they last.
Yeah. So don't you think?
Can't argue with that. But
do you think the method should be then we get Deitch in because we know he's proven he gets us promoted, and then we go and go for someone like Enzo Ball again, because that's what you're saying, Locks, right? If it's a 2-year cycle, then that's what we should be doing. But my view is quite simple, right? I don't care who the manager is, right? Honestly, I don't care. I think in the Championship, I think we'll be okay. All we want as fans is to get promoted again. And then we think about the season after, because we have this debate all the time, don't we? That, if we get a manager like Martin, you got to give him time. You got to give him 2-3 years. But the fans are not going to give him the time, right? If we get off to a bad start next season, even though, Locks, you're already contemplating that we're probably not going to get promoted, right? So just say if we don't say if we have a horrific season, even if we finish 9th or 10th next season, fans will be on his back, right?
Of course, absolutely.
The pressure will be on to get rid of him, right? So whoever's going to come in is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough gig.
Let me just answer this. If we are going to... What happens when you base managerial appointments off head-to-head records? You end up with Ruud van Nistelrooy. So that's a load of tosh. Man United did the double overs. Ruud van Nistelrooy did the double overs. We appointed him, and look what happened. So I'm not paying attention to the fact that they did us over. That we did them over. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to that. Go on. Let me, before I come to you, Chris. Just I want to come to Ragsy so he can have his say on Russell Martin.
I think with Russell Martin, he is still the worst manager that's the Premier League has ever had, in my eyes. And he did build that Southampton side.
Well,
I
his
just
replacement did
felt
worse.
You ever heard of Paul Gill?
Yeah, but yeah, that's definitely that's okay, fine. But I just felt even when coming up head to head with him, like because we can't really sort of gauge into with Southampton fans. We don't watch them week in week out from what they were seeing, and in the Championship they had like a good run middle of the season. But I just felt like you look to the system; it's not comparable at all to Enzo's like style. It was like Enzo's was so much more intricate, so much more detailed. There was a purpose to his passing, and yes, it was frustrating at times in the Championship because teams would literally park the bus, sit back, and we'd have to be the ones that are patient just to wait for them to draw them out and then pick them off. And we didn't see the full extent of that because we only had him in the Championship. I think if we saw him in the Prem, then we could have seen more to him. With Russell Martin, it is literally just holding on to possession for the sake of it. Like, and yes, he may give a good talk from like what he's been saying with all his interviews, and I've taken notice of it. But like Chris has mentioned and has alluded to, is about putting that theory into practice. Same with Ruud. I thought he had nice ideas. I thought, like, from what he did at PSV, forget the 2 games he beat us against United and stuff, even though that's what I think the board like gone and picked him on and it sort of ignored his PSV days. Like, but he was failing to put his theory into practice. He didn't want to use his methods at all. He was just kind of like just picking the easiest 11, the more experienced 11, just to sort of get by. And he needs to be like fully convinced of his methods to then put it into practice. If that, like, you know, he sort of fluttered under the pressure, like when it came to it, and he mentioned it himself. He was constantly changing formation. So I need to be convinced of a manager that's actually going to be able to pull off his style. And he, even in the Championship, I think we'd be flaky, and I think it would be a lot worse. And I think these fans would turn a lot more quickly, especially if it goes off to a bad start. So I don't mind the idea of pushing forward a possession-based style. I think that's, you know, if we want to be sustainable and establish ourselves back in the Premier League, I think this is the way to go. I look at a Deitch and I think, yes, okay, in the short term, but I think people are sort of remembering too much of the Burnley days when, you know, he put them 7th and stuff. I think those days are long gone. I think football's moved on since then.
I'm remembering the Everton point deduction, mate. That's absolutely huge. Imagine a manager keeping your team up with that big of a point deduction. Imagine what he could do with a bunch of bums. Do you not think Ruud van Nistelrooy could have to come back to? Do you not think Ruud van Nistelrooy could have learned something from this season? Is there no way that he couldn't have improved on his methods just based off what he learned here? Because I think there's every chance that he could.
He would if he cared. He would if he cared, and that's the thing with him. It was just like, please, just try and like, you know, build a team in your way, in your eyes and stuff, and push through the youth if you have to, so that at least we as fans can see what you're capable of moving into the Championship. But
we did see that. I said that earlier, right? We saw spells of it working, but they're short spells before an error happens. And I think a season in the Championship would do him and a lot of the players some good as well. I think his biggest problem, because I watched back some of his PSV managerial days, I think he lacked a real physical number 9. A lot of the time, they were scoring lots of goals from is it Luke De Jong, crosses in the box, him getting knock-on headers. Which means, again, it's like Brexit football, I understand, but knock-on headers and winning headers in the box, and you just don't have that with Jamie Vardy. He's not that sort of player. And then the backup of Daka, you don't have that either. It was a bad choice to get him. It was a real mismanagement of squad and manager collectively, I think, for Ruud van Nistelrooy.